Hi everybody, welcome or welcome back to my channel. It's soup season, so we're making chicken vegetable noodle soup. For our stock, we are going to chop up 3 scallions into thirds, 1 whole head of garlic, 1 medium onion. I'm just chopping this into quarters. I'm leaving the skin on all of these because we are going to strain this out later. This is just going to be for poaching our chicken. It's going to add a ton of flavor. Last but not least, a 1.5 inch piece of ginger just chopped into large chunks. Pop this into a stock pot or a large Dutch oven with 8 cups of water and bring that up to a simmer. Now for our chicken, I have skin on, bone in, but we're going to remove the skin because we're going to do something special with that later. So carefully remove that. Try to keep that as intact as possible and set that aside. Now we can add in our chicken breast, cover this with the lid, and let this simmer for 20 minutes. While that's simmering, we're going to blanch a half cup of bean sprouts just in some boiling water. Set that aside while we chop up 1 3.5 ounce package of shiitake mushrooms. I'm using what I had in the fridge, so you can do the same. Next up are 3 scallions. We're going to chop the white parts into 1 inch pieces and chop up the greens for our garnish. I also had some snap peas, so this is about 1.5 cups, just cutting off those woody ends. And 3 baby bok choy, cutting this in quarters, and then giving it a really good rinse because bok choy likes to hold on to grit. Now that our bean sprouts have poached, we're going to drain them, add a half teaspoon of, or blanched I should say, kosher salt, and a half teaspoon of sesame oil, and set that aside. After 20 minutes, take off the lid. We're going to pull out all of our chicken pieces and let these cool down because we're going to pull this apart into large chunks with our hands, and we're going to strain out all of the solids from our liquid, but reserve the liquid. We're going to use that for our actual soup. While the chicken breasts are cooling, we're going to fry up our chicken skin, kind of like bacon. This is going to add a ton of flavor and a beautiful texture to the top of our soup. So just be careful because it does pop and sizzle like bacon does as well. But you want to get it nice and crispy on all sides. And once it's super crispy, you can drain that on some kitchen towel, let it cool down a little bit. No man left behind. And we're going to chop this into large chunks and set this aside in a bowl for our garnish for later. We're also going to cook some noodles. I'm using rice noodles. Just cook according to package directions. Now we're shredding our chicken. This isn't fully cooked. That's fine. We're going to cook this more later. Back into that same pot, we're going to add a tablespoon of sesame oil and a tablespoon of gochujang. We're going to let this cook for 1 minute before adding back in all of our liquid. That's the last of the liquid in. We're also going to add back in the chicken, bring this up to a simmer, but we're going to season as well before we remove the chicken again. To season, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of soy sauce and 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine. We're going to let that chicken cook just until it's cooked through and pull it out because we don't want to overcook it. Next, we're going to add in our shiitake mushrooms and our scallions, and we're going to let that cook for a minute, skimming off any scum that rises to the top. After a minute, we're going to add in the bok choy and the snap peas, and let that cook for 5 minutes. Turn off the heat, season with 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar. I'm using black vinegar. It's just going to add so much brightness and flavor to this. Now to plate, I like to keep the noodles separate so they don't get soggy. So adding in a portion of noodles, then ladling over as much of our soup and our veggies as your heart desires. Adding in our chicken pieces. Topping with our seasoned bean sprouts. Sprinkling with scallion. And the piece de resistance, our crispy chicken skin. And this is looking absolutely delicious. Now let's go ahead and give this a taste. I want to taste the broth itself first. It's very subtle. It has a really beautiful, subtle heat that runs through it from the gochujang. The chicken is poached perfectly. And this crispy skin is crunchy, flavorful, and just this pop of goodness on top of the soup. This is the perfect weeknight meal or weekend meal for these super cold and blustery nights, and it is absolutely satisfying and absolutely delicious. But there it is, chicken vegetable noodle soup. I hope you all try to make this in your home. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. okay. I really do appreciate it. I'm sorry if this was a little chaotic. This is just something I threw together. But if you like this video, please give it a like. If you loved it, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell if you haven't already, because I put out new videos every Thursday. Thank you so very much again. And until next time, happy cooking.